Hey guys, so this video is going to be a little bit different from the other couple of videos I've made. It's going to be kind of a more serious and candid video, but hopefully you guys still enjoy. So today I'm going to be talking about pretty much my weight loss experience, specifically having to do with my PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome. This is not a how-to. I'm not going to be talking about, calories or carbs or dairy or anything like that. It's going to be much more the mental and emotional side of weight loss that I experienced, especially in terms of having polycystic ovarian syndrome as well. Also, just a heads up, I think some of this story is going to be a little dark and maybe even a little emotional. So if you're sensitive to depression, anxiety, weight loss, weight gain, stuff like that, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but, just be prepared that it might get a little dark at times. I'm not sure. So off the bat, since July 31st of 2016, I have lost 80 pounds. And I don't think that'll ever feel real saying that. It's something I'm proud of because it was not the original goal I had in mind, but it is a side effect of taking control of my health. And for that, I'm very proud. And as you can imagine, we kind of live in a time period where literally everyone I know is trying to lose weight. And so I got a lot of questions about, how did you stick with it? How did you do it? What did you eat? I get questions from strangers even that have just noticed me, from work, and have noticed I've lost weight. I give advice constantly. But yeah, so I want this video to be a little bit more of a framing of why I even lost weight in the first place. And then I'm going to try to touch a little bit on, what I think made me most successful in losing weight and thankfully sustaining my weight, which, some people say is even harder than losing weight in the first place. So to start off with, I should probably explain the disorder I live with, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's a very common disorder, unfortunately, that affects a lot of young people. And basically it is where your body, when you're a female, your body does not produce enough estrogen and produces too much testosterone and androgens. And so it creates these little cysts on your ovaries from eggs that do not fully develop. And it comes with a long list of symptoms, anything from acne, hair loss, hair growth, but probably the most common, I'd say, is rapid weight loss or rapid weight gain and trouble losing weight. And that is due to the effect polycystic ovarian syndrome has on your insulin sensitivity, and you develop insulin resistance, which I won't get too much into, but it makes it harder for your body to lose weight, and it makes it easier for it to store fat. And it can, over time, lead to pre-diabetes and even type 2 diabetes, which will become relevant a little bit later in my story. So when I was diagnosed with PCOS, just to paint a picture of where I was in my life, I was in my first year of college, and I was in probably one of the darkest times in my life. I was dealing with, but not really dealing with, depression and anxiety. I was on a couple different antidepressants and anxiety meds, and I was doing very reckless behavior and not taking care of myself, and just really in the depths of it. I wouldn't shower, I wouldn't go to class, I was just living to make it every day and not really looking forward to any kind of future. And all of that kind of came to a head in an incident that I won't get into, but it inspired me, I guess, to go to the gynecologist for the first time and get an STD test done. Which was very abnormal for me to do something that responsible during that point in my life. It was kind of like, you know, most of the time I think I would have just been like, you know, why bother? Who cares if I got a disease? I don't even like me or my body. I mean, it was pretty bad. But I did the responsible thing and went to the gynecologist, and thankfully the STD screening came back and it was completely negative and no problem there. But while I was there, you know, they did the normal pelvic exam, and she asked me questions like how, you know, when was your last menstrual cycle? And I told her like 2 years ago. And she also noticed symptoms like, you know, having gained a lot of weight in that first year of college, having really dark spots around my neck and under my arms and between my legs. And all of that was kind of symptomatic of insulin resistance and polycystic ovarian syndrome. So she very flatly tells me like, oh, I'm pretty sure you have PCOS. And I was like, what the heck is that? Like, you know, she said polycystic ovarian syndrome, and the first thought that comes to mind is like, I have cysts on my ovaries, which can be incredibly painful. Like, you know, do I have cancer? Like, I had no clue what she was talking about. So she very quickly explains to me, you know, basically the definition of it and what it means. And they did an ultrasound to verify that I did have those cysts on my ovaries I talked about a minute ago. And what she made very clear was that my weight gain had made my PCOS worse. It's really easy to gain weight on PCOS, and it is almost impossible to lose weight on PCOS. That was her words, not mine. And then she went into her waiting room and got something and brought it back into the office, and she was like, yeah, a lot of people have trouble losing weight. It's almost impossible to lose weight on PCOS, but a lot of people have tried out this new, and it was like a metabolism boosting protein shake. And she's like, a lot of people have tried out this shake and it works really well for them. Can I ring you up for one? And it was so cold and unemotional, and it was, you know, she was very transparent in that she was trying to sell me something. Had no empathy about the fact that she had just told me I have this disorder that I'm going to live with for the rest of my life, that requires managing my symptoms, that can, you know, lead to type 2 diabetes. Like, she had no, you know, caring in her actions. And, you know, you would want more from a healthcare professional, but I guess, you know, at the end of the day, they're there to make money as well. But it's something that, you know, it sucks, and I'm sure a lot of other people have experienced that. And anyway, it made me really angry, primarily at her, but even like at the world and at myself. And I remember driving home and literally feeling disconnected from my body, and to the point where like I didn't even register my feet moving. I didn't register my hands moving. It was really weird. It was like complete dissociation. And it had stayed that way up until about maybe even just a year and a half ago. And this was back in, I want to say 2014. But since then, like, I just had this hatred for my body, and it had betrayed me, and it had turned into this monster that I didn't recognize that was there to hurt me. Like, I just became so detached from who I was, as far as my body. And that stayed with me for a long time, and it made my depression and anxiety worse, obviously. But the good news is, sometime, I'd say probably I was diagnosed in 2012. I would say in 2014, I started getting a little better as far as my depression is concerned. I was not managing any kind of symptoms associated with PCOS at all. I kind of just put it on the back burner and tried not to think about it. But my depression was getting much better, and I was developing a little bit more of a relationship with myself. I was still very disconnected from my physical body, but I was getting to accept myself a little bit more. And, you know, I got a better job. I started, you know, sleeping better, small steps like that, but I really wasn't at the point where I was taking care of myself. And so fast forward to June of 2016, and I start having some really interesting symptoms. I am drinking water like crazy and never feeling satiated. I am full of energy one minute and then literally asleep the next. And probably the scariest symptom was I couldn't see properly. And what I mean by that is like everything would become blurry at random times. And I couldn't see like the signs on the side of the road while I was driving. I couldn't read the marquees in the supermarket to tell, you know, what aisle the chips were or something like that. And by the way, at this point in time, we were making a whole lot of money, and the cheapest way at the time I knew how to eat was like constant McDonald's and Taco Bell. That was basically the two things I ate, just to give you some context on why my symptoms had gotten so bad. And so I always kind of knew in the back of my mind, after doing some very basic research about PCOS, that type 2 diabetes could be a result of not taking care of yourself during PCOS and during insulin resistance specifically. And so that was like my immediate thought, was that I have type 2 diabetes now, even though I hadn't gotten tested for it. I have type 2 diabetes now, and I'm having nerve damage that is affecting my eyesight. Like, that was what I was convinced of. And come to find out, that is not what was happening. I did not have full-blown type 2 diabetes. I was pre-diabetic, and pretty badly too. But no, what happened was my body was trying to flush out glucose so fast that it was making me thirsty, and my eyes were drying out. And so that's where that came from. But it really scared me, because I always kind of had that fear. That's not really a logical fear, I suppose, but I've always kind of had a fear of losing my eyesight. You know, while people without eyesight can lead beautiful, productive lives, you know, I love art, and I love nature, and I love colors, and it's all, you know, how I express myself is visual. And so the idea of losing my eyesight because of something I did was, or didn't do, was terrifying. And so July 31st, 2016, I sat down and I read every article, every website, every book I could get my hands on about PCOS and dieting, and how you're supposed to eat when you have PCOS. And I remember, like, for a week I was just obsessed with it, and I wrote myself a diet plan. I hate using that word because it wasn't really a diet plan. It was just, you know, putting more vegetables, putting more fruits, cutting out sugar, stuff like that. And I stuck with it, and then even just after literally a week, my symptoms got a little bit better, just cutting off stuff that I shouldn't have been eating in the first place. And it wasn't like, you know, ooh, you know, I couldn't have corn or something like that. It wasn't anything particular like that. It was just cutting off like really bad foods. People, you know, foods people know are bad for you. I just started with that, and drank more water. That's where I started. And then, like, my energy levels got a little bit more stable, so I would walk the dog for 30 minutes at a time, and it just kept on going and going and going. Weight loss was nowhere in my mind at this time. I knew that your symptoms would get better with weight loss, but that was not the goal. The goal was, I want my eyesight back, I want to feel better, what do I have to do? So I started eating vegetables, which is a radical idea, and drinking more water, and walking the dog. And over the course of several months, that just kind of escalated. And of course, as soon as I started making those changes, I dropped a lot of weight really quickly, and then pretty slowly. And then, you know, it never became, I always thought that it would get to a point where the symptoms didn't matter anymore, and it was strictly about vanity as far as continuing to lose weight. And at some times throughout the year and a half that I've been doing this, sometimes that has been the case, but most of the time what makes me come back to it is remembering that above all else, I am treating a disorder and I am managing my symptoms. And so, you know, if I fall off the bandwagon, like, it's a really good excuse to get back on, is that you have to take care of your body. And that's why, you know, you need to eat your vegetables or something like that. But anyway, going back to, you know, people ask me all the time, how did you lose weight? And if I had to give them a couple quick answers, I'd say there are obvious things, obviously increasing your activity level and stuff like that, but number one is small changes. I didn't start off running a mile. Now I do it as a warm-up, and it's awesome because I never thought I'd be a runner, but I started with a 30-minute walking for my dog. Like, I started with just cutting out McDonald's. Not even really eating like great foods, just not eating really crappy foods. And small changes like that. Every time I try to add too much to my regimen, I always fail. So small steps, number one. Number two is there are a lot of different diets in this world, and I hate that word. And when I say diet in this sense, I mean way of eating, not quick fixes. There are a lot of different ways of eating, and I've tried most of them, I think. And there is only one right way to eat to make yourself either lose weight or just feel better. There is only one way, and that is the way you will stick to. And sometimes that changes. Sometimes I add foods I don't usually eat, take away foods I don't usually eat, go high carb, low carb, blah, 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 blah. And really, it doesn't matter which one you do. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that, but I don't think it matters which one you do. It's the one you can stick to, and it's the one you're happy with and you're not miserable with. And that takes a lot of time figuring that out. And the number one thing that has been my key to getting healthy and losing weight in the process, and continuing to be healthy, is communication with myself. Remember how I said I felt really disconnected with my body after I found out I had PCOS, and even before that, really? I have had to work really hard to rebuild that, but it is the most important thing I've ever done for myself in any regard, is reconnecting with my body and reconnecting with who I am, my true values, and my personality. And that's hard. That is way harder than eating broccoli. That is way harder than 30 minutes on a treadmill. Being comfortable with yourself and building a relationship with yourself and falling in love with yourself, that is way harder and way more important than anything else I could tell you. That is, I don't like to talk in absolutes, but I promise you, you will fail over and over again if you do not talk to yourself, if you do not love yourself. Every night, this sounds silly, but every night, and it's always made me feel better, every night before I go to bed, I tell myself, I'm proud of you and I love you. And for people who have been disconnected from themselves, or have not loved themselves and have not felt proud of themselves, that is really hard, but it's really powerful. And it's hard not to amend it. You know, I'm proud of you, but you could have done a few more reps at the gym. I'm proud of you, but maybe you didn't give the best presentation at work. I'm proud of you, but you gotta learn to cut it off. You have to say, I'm proud of you, good job, I love you. And it's never failed. It's, you know, I've never been at a loss when communication with myself is good. You know, I've felt uncomfortable with certain diets. I've felt uncomfortable with certain exercise plans. I've never felt uncomfortable with myself building a relationship with myself. And it is the number one thing I can say. At the end of the day, you will fail 100% of the time if you are not opening communication with yourself. And I do this thing, I call it the mothering technique. And I'll get into that in another video. I think I want to make a whole video about that. But basically, the basic premise of it is that we tend to talk down to ourselves a lot, and we're very critical of ourselves. I know I am, especially if you live with depression and anxiety. And, you know, you're constantly berating yourself. Oh, how dare you even want to smell that cookie? Like, you know, if we said out loud the things we say to ourselves, we would be appalled. I mean, you would not say that to your worst enemy, but we say it to ourselves. And so, at least my technique is that you kind of reword that voice in your head and you change it into what you think the perfect mother would be. And, you know, of course the perfect mother does not exist, but if you think about what the perfect mother, whether you have one or not, thankfully I have a very great mother who is wonderful and has helped me a lot with building this voice in my head. But if you think of what a perfect mother would say to you in these situations where maybe you don't want to go to the gym, maybe you don't want to eat healthy, maybe, you know, you're not sleeping well, or anything, really, it applies to anything. What would a good mother say to you? Would she let you have another, you know, slice of cake, or would she tell you maybe back off? Would she tell you to, you know, sit this one out at the gym, or would she tell you, you know, I think you can work a little harder? And, you know, sometimes those answers change, and you have to be really in tune with yourself. But if you think, you know, just very basically try to change that voice in your head into what you think a good mother would do, you really can't go wrong. I mean, it has not really failed me yet. And like I said, I'll probably get into this more in another video on how to use it, because it's really helpful for me, and so I'd like to share it with people. But that's how I did it, was really communicating. That's it, is self-communication and self-love, and you can't do it without it. So anyway, I know this has been really rambling, but it's something I get a lot of questions about, and something I want to be very honest about, just kind of my whole journey. In case y'all are wondering, I probably will continue to lose weight. It's not a major concern of mine. What I'd really like to do is get more athletic. I have some goals for this year that I think are pretty fun that I would like to become more athletic for. I kind of want to get into like jam skating, and I just kind of want to see, like in a fun way, how far I can take myself physically. And I have a lot of, you know, good vibes about this year, and there's a lot of fun things I hope for in my physical year. Anyway, thank you guys so much. If you have any more questions for me, I will hopefully be making more videos like this. I really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it too. If you struggle with PCOS, depression, anxiety, weight loss, weight gain, any of that, and you want to talk to someone about it, I'm here. I promise. I will never not get back to you if you think I'm a voice that, you know, would be helpful at all. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully this helped anyone out there. But yeah, I want you to know that wherever you are in this journey, if you're even on a journey, I'm proud of you, and I love you. And good night.